New legislation was announced today that aims to protect Black mothers who are in labor. It's called the Wells Act and was introduced by Illinois Representative Democrat Robin Kelly. The legislation is in response to this viral video that shows Mercedes Wells crying and in pain inside an Indiana hospital. Wells says she was in labor for 6 hours and seen by a nurse, but she was ultimately discharged without ever seeing a doctor. Minutes later, she gave birth in her car. Well, today, Representative Kelly announced the Wells Act, or the Women Expansion for Learning and Labor Safety Act, that would require any hospital or health clinic that provides obstetric, emergency, or labor and delivery services to have a safe discharge labor plan before discharging a patient who shows signs of being in.
In this country, pregnancy is treated like a personal project, not a medical event. Everybody has expectations for you. Stay healthy, watch your diet, go to all your appointments, keep stress low, prepare for postpartum. Basically, run a marathon while pretending everything is fine. But at the same time, you can walk into a hospital in active labor and still be brushed off like you're inconveniencing them. The thing about the Mercedes Wells situation is that it wasn't a mistake. It wasn't an unfortunate misunderstanding. It wasn't a one-off. It was a reflection of a long, ugly pattern that goes back generations. It ties directly into medical apartheid, the idea that your pain, your body, your safety is optional to them. Something they get to choose to acknowledge or deny depending on their mood. You can literally be contracting on camera, leaking fluid, swollen, panicked, unable to stand, and staff can still look you dead in the face and decide they simply don't believe you. They get to make that call. They get to gamble with your life. And if something goes wrong, you're the one who pays the price. And this is exactly why the maternal mortality rate is what it is. Why Black women are 3 to 4 times more likely to die giving birth, even when they have the same or better income, education, and prenatal care than white women. It's not because Black women don't take care of themselves. It's not because we aren't aware. It's because the system has never been designed to treat our bodies with urgency. When you look at the Wells Act, you can tell it was written from frustration, not innovation. You can tell lawmakers were basically saying, all right, since y'all clearly refuse to use common sense or basic compassion, we're gonna have to write it into law. But laws don't change attitudes, and they don't create empathy, they don't erase bias, and they definitely don't magically force people to stop seeing Black patients as exaggerating or being dramatic. And that's what makes this whole thing feel like warfare, because when your healthcare worker decides not to take you seriously, you're not in a disagreement. You're not being difficult, and you are fighting for your life against somebody who doesn't think you're in danger. You're fighting for your life inside the one place that is supposed to save it. That's medical warfare. People hear the term medical apartheid and think it's extreme, but when you go through enough stories, Serena Williams literally having to diagnose herself, Black women being told their pain is normal when they're hemorrhaging, mothers begging for help only to be discharged and dying hours later, how else do you describe it? Because when you see a pattern repeat this consistently, you have to call it what it is: systemic, intentional, and deeply rooted in racial bias. Now, here's the part people don't like to talk about. All of this creates a psychological conditioning for Black mothers. You start preparing yourself to advocate harder, argue more, bring paperwork, bring support, bring documentation, bring a witness, record everything, because you know the moment you walk in, there's a chance they will not believe you. Imagine trying to mentally prepare yourself for childbirth while also preparing yourself for battle. That is the reality for so many Black women today. And this is why the Wells Act matters, not because it solves everything, but because it exposes the issue. It forces people to acknowledge that negligence is happening so often and so boldly that legislators had to come in and tell hospitals, stop pushing women out the door when they're giving birth. The fact that this even needed to be said is wild, and it makes you wonder how many stories like this don't go viral. How many mothers were dismissed, mistreated, ignored, or turned away before something catastrophic happened? How many women didn't get a chance for anybody to advocate for them? Because for every video we see online, there are probably thousands we never hear about. And honestly, my biggest concern is the normalization of this. People are numb and they see a video like Mercedes Wells, they get upset for 48 hours and then they move on. Meanwhile, the same conditions that led to her situation are still happening every single day all across the country in hospitals that stay fully funded and fully unbothered. And this isn't just about Black women either. Black babies are dying at higher rates too. Whole generations are being impacted because the people responsible for delivering life into the world are comfortable playing guessing games with ours. So when I say this is a form of warfare, that's what I mean. This is generational, structural, predictable, and the only reason it keeps happening is because the system benefits from staying exactly the way it is. It's cheaper to discharge you than admit you. It's easier to ignore you than investigate your symptoms. It's more convenient to label you dramatic than actually listen, and the Wells Act, while necessary, is still a band-aid on a bullet wound. It forces hospitals to follow bare minimum standards, but it doesn't address staffing shortages. It slightly addresses racial bias, like, for people to get the training, but it doesn't address the history of medical exploitation, and it doesn't address the lack of accountability. The Wells Act is a step toward accountability, ensuring some level of oversight for hospitals and staff when it comes to patient care, but it doesn't fully solve systemic issues. Black women can still experience bias, neglect, or mistreatment in hospitals even after the act. But it does something important. It gives people language. It allows women to say, I was treated the way Mercedes Wells was treated. And it gives people a reference point that isn't vague or up for interpretation. And that's where real change starts, with people refusing to be gaslit into thinking they imagine their experience. And actually, before I wrap this up, I want to address something that happened on one of my last videos, because it ties right into this whole conversation about how Black women are treated in medical spaces. There was a woman who commented under my video titled, "The Real Reason Pregnant Women Are Being Ignored." And her username literally had doctor in it. And she tried to correct me about Henrietta Lacks. She said Henrietta knew what was happening, that her cells weren't taken without her consent, and that the biopsy was something she agreed to. And I just sat there like, ma'am, what? Because the thing is, yes, Henrietta consented to having a tumor removed, but she did not consent to having her cells harvested, cloned, commercialized, monetized, and turned into a billion-dollar industry. That part was done behind her back, behind her family's back, and the medical system profited off her body without ever telling her or compensating her family. That's documented history. And the wild part to me was that this comment came from a Black woman. Really got on my channel under a video about Black maternal harm, trying to downplay one of the most well-known examples of medical exploitation of a Black woman. That right there is the kind of thing that makes me give people the strongest bombastic side eye. Because if you're a Black woman, especially one claiming to be in the medical field, how are you still repeating misinformation that minimizes what was done to us? We cannot afford to play pretend like that. And honestly, I don't even know if she's really a doctor or if she just calls herself that on social media, but either way, I'm not entertaining ignorance, not on a topic where Black women's lives are literally on the line. If you're going to be loud, at least be accurate. And if you're going to correct me on my channel, make sure you know what you're talking about, because spreading misinformation only protects the system that harms us. If you're someone who plans on having kids, knows somebody who's pregnant, or just cares about the safety of women in your community, pay attention. Advocate. Don't go to appointments alone if you don't have to. Don't let anyone brush you off. Don't let staff intimidate you into silence. And if you've ever experienced something like this, if you've ever been dismissed, ignored, or sent home when you knew something wasn't right, please share your story. Because the more of us who speak up, the harder it becomes for this system to pretend these issues don't exist. Thank you for watching.